Joining us now is Betsy Bishop, president of the Vermont Chamber of Commerce. We're going to look over the latest results for Vermont's Small Business Economic Survey. Betsy, this was obviously an up and down year, 2021, looking at the pandemic in general and how it impacted businesses. What struck you most from this survey, and what does it tell us about how Vermont's small and medium-sized businesses held up during 2021?
We do this survey every year with Davis and Hodgdon CPAs trying to get small businesses to tell us a little bit about what they're experiencing. And this year's survey really focused on the pandemic recovery. And I think one of the things that was most surprising to me and most interesting to me was the sense of optimism that we received through this survey.
And when you look at that optimism, what do you think that is attributed towards? I know that in June, there was a feeling that Vermont would be returning to business as usual. That was held up a bit. It seems with Omicron cases on the decline, we're heading back towards that level of optimism. Is it some combination of the COVID situation and the sort of federal funds available? Why do you think businesses are feeling particularly good despite the ups and downs of the year?
It's been a really long 2 years for businesses. Of course, for everybody, it has been. And I think we only can think about how we can, emerge from this struggle that we've been having. Certainly, the federal government and our state legislators have been very generous in helping and supporting businesses in Vermont throughout this time. So that has been a help. There's still more to be done in that realm. But I think that sense of optimism that they've had a little bit of help to power through has certainly been one thing. The other thing is that we're starting to see the numbers again turn down. And we need that to fuel that sense that, we can become part of society again.
So I want to run through some of the numbers here for our viewers. In this survey, over half of the business owners surveyed acknowledge that the pandemic has permanently changed the way they do business. But with that being said, 83% have not been forced to downsize, and 59% expect their business sales to increase in 2022. 46% plan to hire additional staff. Looking back, when we left 2020 and you think back to the 2020 survey results, is this something you expected? Does this answer some of the uncertainties you may have felt a year ago today?
I think so. That's that sense of optimism. We're seeing increased sales in a lot of different places. We're seeing some innovation in businesses as well in how they deliver their products, how they deliver their services. I think the one area I think that you mentioned, the 46% of folks who want to hire more people. At the end of the day, businesses are successful because they have people who work in their businesses to help them succeed. And that is the place that we're really starting to see the pinch with the labor force shortage and the difficulty in hiring. So that data point shows how many employers want to hire. The question is, can they expand their businesses, and can that sense of optimism be met if they can't find enough people to come to work for them?
And the survey also builds on trends that we saw long before the pandemic, with businesses primarily concerned about taxes, healthcare costs, as well as policies that are perceived to be unfriendly to businesses. This is obviously something that has dated back a while. What were you struck by this year as far as what businesses had to say about those longstanding disagreements?
I think those issues are longstanding because they're costs. And so anytime we're thinking about costs, it is how do we manage those in a business sense? So, making sure that those costs don't increase, especially during this pandemic, especially as revenues have been lagging, is super important. In addition to that, we are looking at wage increase costs for sure. Wages are rising and they need to, and employers are doing that. We're seeing inflation at 7%, so we're seeing every cost of good going up as well. So those are sort of natural pieces of the economy where we're seeing increased costs. So of course, taxes are of concern. Healthcare costs continue to rise as well. So trying to balance all of that with stagnant revenues or uncertain revenues is an area of concern for businesses always.
And it wouldn't be an interview about Vermont businesses if we, of course, didn't talk about a struggle to find qualified employees. This is something we've heard time and time again from both the governor and the state legislature. Obviously, the pandemic is playing into that a little bit, but as we've heard, Vermont's workforce issues arrived long before that. What do you think was the most striking when it comes to businesses' struggle to find qualified employees, and of some of the solutions that we've seen out there, whether it's bringing workers from out of state through incentives or just trying to better train the people that we do have here in Vermont? What does this year's survey tell you about where that struggle stands?
The survey tells me that there's no change, that that issue is going to continue for a long time. Vermont has had a aging demographic and a declining amount of people in the workforce pre-pandemic, and the pandemic has exacerbated that. We absolutely need to figure out how to have more people become Vermonters. We need to encourage more people to move here. A big part of what we're working on is something called the Declaration of Inclusion, with a group out of Rutland that is doing a great job to get every town in Vermont to sign on to this declaration as being a welcoming place for everybody. We need more people in Vermont, more people in the workforce, and that's something that we're working on as well.
And then I do want to also ask, in the grand scheme of things, the Small Business Economic Survey, what role does this play, or what role do you hope it plays for our state leaders in deciding policies that'll benefit Vermont's workforce? Do you feel that this has sort of enough of a role in decision making? Do you wish that more key decision makers would sort of take into account what businesses are saying in surveys like this?
I think we have a very accessible legislature, policy leaders in the administration. We're very fortunate in that in Vermont, and we are able to bring this data and other data that we collect into the policy making process. So I do think that they hear that. I do think that they listen. I also think that they're balancing a lot of different things right now. For the past 2 years, we've had a huge influx of dollars from the federal government, trying to figure out how to spend that and where, and make sure that we make transformational change is really huge in housing, in broadband coverage, in childcare. Those three issues we must make progress on if we're going to continue to have a strong business community and encourage more people to come here, live here, and work here.
All right, Betsy. And then my last question, thinking back once again to January 2020, or the 2020 survey, and then looking forward to what we might see this year, is where we're at right now basically where you may have expected Vermont to be at that time? And then looking forward, what are your predictions for the next year?
I really hesitate. I really hesitate to do any predictions. I would say over the last 2 years, we've all had a couple of false starts where we thought the pandemic was in decline and that we were ready to emerge from this, and we were all eager for that. And we're at that point right now. And while this survey really shows a sense of optimism, and I really hope that that optimism comes to bear, I hate to predict that will appear at a particular time that I would suggest.
Maybe one day I'll meet somebody who can predict the future. Betsy Bishop, thank you so much. President of the Vermont Chamber of Commerce, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.